So here I am with Joanne Sweeney, and we are here to talk to 6 and 7 figure female entrepreneurs about what's been happening in the last 3 months. Basically, our world went upside down, and some had to make some big shifts. And Joanne, you had to really change things. You were jetting around Europe, teaching your offline workshops, and suddenly, boom, the world stopped and you had to figure something out. And I want to talk about that with you, what you have been doing, also how it has personally, all affected us in some ways. So let's take us back, I guess, 3 months ago when that all happened. What did that feel to you?
So my last meeting with clients was on Thursday, March 12th. It was also the day that our Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, announced that the country was going into essential lockdown and that COVID-19 had arrived in Ireland. I was planning my 3rd annual Public Sector Digital Marketing Summit. I was also had lots of training, in-person training scheduled right across Europe. In fact, I was supposed to be in Milan, in Berlin, and also in Madrid in March and in April, but they began to get cancelled in February. So I kind of anticipated something was happening. Yeah. And about 80% of my work was actually in person, and I had been attempting to move that to the online space. But of course, I was trying to encourage my clients to go online with me. But literally overnight, Sigrun, it stopped. It stopped, and I made a video on the Friday morning, and I said that I was cancelling my summit scheduled for tomorrow. Actually, this is my summit eve.
Yes.
Actually, once I made that decision, I felt really relaxed and I had clarity. And I know you were in a similar position.
I had the same thing. Yeah. Making the decision, it's a relief once you make that decision, because you're thinking hours and you waste a lot of resources procrastinating on a decision like that. So that's the first thing I guess you did, just like me, to postpone your summit. But was it, you said just before you had been trying to get your clients online, but we know how these people are in big companies and organizations. They're like, no, you fly in, we are not willing. But now was maybe an opportunity to get them online.
Yeah, I describe COVID as a weird professional gift, in that my clients immediately went online, reached out. I would say they went quiet for about a fortnight, for about 2 weeks, but I used the opportunity to get clarity in my own head. I knew that what was in my own work pipeline was now not going to happen. So I suddenly had a clear diary, and I thought about, well, what do my clients need from me right now? I was like, stop thinking about yourself, think about your clients, step into their shoes. And because we don't have a vaccine for COVID-19, and my clients are government and public sector agencies who are at the front line of this global pandemic, I said they are now in a situation of crisis comms. Because we can't meet people in person, they are communicating with their citizens and their country exclusively online. And so I created an accredited certificate in COVID-19 digital crisis communications, and I turned that around in 2 weeks. And and actually tomorrow it's weird how this is happening, but I guess it's serendipity. It's meant to be. So tomorrow 46 of those students will graduate in that certificate. But we're having a virtual graduation.
Wow. Well, I know you for being a workhorse, Joanne. You are really, people think I work, hard and get a lot of stuff done, but you just, I wrote another book, or, I just created a course. And it's amazing how you did not, actually kind of like, poor me, that's horrible that this is happening to me. But you said, wow, I can actually do something with it. So how does one get an accredited course together. Tell us about that. I'm sure people watching this now or later are curious how that works.
Yeah, so I, again, understood from knowing my audience that they really valued accreditation. So having, a certificate to go with continuing professional development. Yeah. My courses aren't academic because it would take too long for people to go through them. So they're CPD certified by the CPD Standards Office in London. And so I send over my course material, the login to my learning management system, and they verify and authenticate the content and maybe make suggestions for improvements, check all my protocols and my policies, and then verify and accredit my course. And in fairness, they have also shifted and they've been providing their clients with digital badges. So I was able to get my COVID-19 cert accredited within that time frame also.
Wow. And they did a quick turnaround for you too.
Yeah, well, they realized that a lot of their clients who were in the industry of training, all their in-person training was cancelled and for the foreseeable future. So in fairness to them, they also were pretty agile and they began to host webinars and to explain the digital badge accreditation. So there was just a little bit of paperwork to do to move our in-person training to a digital accreditation.
Wow. So COVID-19 crisis communication, and that's, you quickly went out there. You had I know one of your blog posts, one of your most popular blog posts is how to do PR in a crisis. And what's been happening in the last 2 weeks is another crisis where I've seen a lot of people fail doing it.
That has been a massive crisis. And in fact, having COVID-19 and having Black Lives Matter and the death of George Floyd, all of that together has added extra pressure on governments, but also on business leaders as well. And I, as a white woman who grew up in Ireland in a country where, I didn't have a person of color in my school, as a teenager or younger, in university, actually not too many. I took a step back and said, well, I need to educate myself. I'm a fan of education. And so I actually saw, I think, was it you that shared it? No, it was our other digital colleague. Can't remember her name. Katia shared it. And there's this lady who hosted a webinar for teens, actually, to learn about diversity and race and people of color and racism. So I actually bought the course and I'm going to watch it later with my 24-year-old daughter and my 10-year-old son. Because I think we all have a responsibility to take a step back and to really understand and to be able to step into the shoes of another person, because we all have communities, right? We're all influencing in our own way. And again, even looking at who we have on our shows, what topics are we talking about? Are we being inclusive as opposed to being exclusive? And I think in the past 18 months with the Me Too movement, there's been a rise and a voice for women. But I think that, over the past fortnight, again, there's been another voice that perhaps has been on the sidelines for far too long. And that belongs to people of color all across the world.
Yeah. But how is crisis communication different when you compare COVID versus or recession or Black Lives Matter? These are three big things happening, and you're helping, public offices to navigate that. Personally, some people say, oh, I have to step back and learn. But, in a public office, you can't really do that. You have to step up.
No. And decided to take some statues down that historically portrayed slavery in some way, that wasn't aligned with where we are in the world now and where indeed we want to be. I think the frameworks and the approach to crisis communications can
So let's see if we can get this sorted. I think Joanne is frozen. Joanne, you're freezing a bit on us.
Sorry, it must be the connection.
The
gremlins.
Yeah, the gremlins and the connection. You were saying, well, that's what I kind of heard, that crisis communication is still similar, whatever the crisis is.
Yes, and what's really important is that we have leadership. Our senior leaders need to step up, be seen, be heard, and definitely not stepping back. Because in government, in politics, and in public sector, these people hold public office. They are supposed to be the voice of the citizen. And so it's really, really important that they do step up. But again, fear of ridicule, fear of being criticized on social media often means that they step back. But I don't think that's an excuse anymore. I wouldn't accept it as an excuse from any leader in any public office. And if they're not competent or confident enough to do it, then I think they should ask themselves, are they the right person for the job?
Yeah, that's a good question. What about business leaders? We have seen some attacks and shaming and calling out and I at some point I was kind of stopping watching that because I felt, I don't know, you don't want to be the one attacked or called out or shamed. And is this going to stop people from speaking up?
Yeah, I've seen that also. And I think that's very unfortunate. I think, I talk about digital citizenship and that being the safe, savvy and ethical use of the internet. And perhaps we should help people out and have an open conversation as opposed to shut people down. And I do think people are afraid of language. They're afraid of terminology, of getting it wrong. And then they just go into themselves and they just avoid the topic. And I can see why. So I think that there's a difference between somebody who is deliberately trolling and abusive and discriminatory and inciting hatred compared to somebody who perhaps needs a little bit more education. And so I think that we all have a personal responsibility, because calling out and, bullying somebody online is also not right.
Yeah.
And again, so I think we all have to have lots and lots of self-awareness around our own actions and what we say, because what we say online, there's a permanent footprint of it there. Yes, we can delete them, but as we all know, deleted tweets and deleted comments are those that probably go viral because people have screenshotted them.
Yeah. We know that from certain leaders around the world that shouldn't be leaders. So do you see that you are creating something for public office on this topic specifically? Because you did like a COVID-19 training and now that is evolving, obviously, but will there be a different training for Black Lives Matter?
So actually what I'm also launching tomorrow, and the workhorse, right? The Irish workhorse, I'm launching an accredited diploma in social media marketing for government and public sector. I've never done that before. And I only with this.
I thought you had that already.
No, I haven't. I did digital communications, but not specifically social media. So I think that the social media modules will definitely attract an audience where they're saying, we need to be able to step up with confidence on a range of issues, whether it's economic, public health, or whether it's cultural and societal. So I think that program will definitely get lots of interest, and it has had early interest already. I had a focus group earlier in the week with 16 public sector pros who I showed the course to, and they gave me really invaluable feedback. And one of the main comments was, the time is right. in my own mind, I thought, well, surely the time was always right. I mean, social media is been around for like 15 years, but in their mind, with what's happening in the world right now, it's probably a right time for them. So I have a feeling that they will be ready to embrace this learning and to take their leadership, political, public office experience and intuitiveness into the world of social media, because we need them. We need them there.
Yeah, we do. And your first book was about, the police.
Yes, it was. It is Social Media Under Investigation, Law Enforcement and the Social Web. The title's so long because I was trying to optimize it for Google and did a very good job with that.
Yes.
So yeah, I did my first master's in journalism, and I focused on our police force in my home county in Northwest Ireland. And at the time, there was a national public inquiry into allegations of wrongdoing against our police force. Now, this was the year 2001. And this tribunal of investigation actually went on for 3 years. Wow. And part of the hearings came to my home county. And I was a brand new journalist, hungry, ambitious. And I put my hand up and I said, I want to cover it. So a tribunal of investigation is very similar to a court case. But it's very complex. You have witnesses, you've got cross-examination, you've got the presentation of evidence. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And at the same time, there was a public inquiry in Northern Ireland into the events of Bloody Sunday, where we had allegations of members of the then RUC, the Royal Ulster Constabulary, who then allegations that they murdered protesters who were Catholics who were fighting for their rights. So this all kind of feels,
wow, it feels like, you have been preparing for this moment for 15 years.
Yeah, a long time. And actually just having this conversation with you makes me feel like that I've sat through those inquiries in similar circumstances. We're kind of still here, but it's a different story, a different family, a different jurisdiction. But yet the public will always look for leadership. They will ask questions. They're correct to ask questions. But also the citizen voice has never been stronger.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in Ireland, the power brokers were church, were state, and were big corporate business. Yeah. And I actually feel that the pendulum of power has swung into the hands of the people because of the democratization of the internet, because of the free availability of Wi-Fi, because we all have a smartphone and social media accounts, and our voice is now there. And the media and journalists are watching what's being said on social. And in fact, one of the topics that I teach in my course is called data-driven journalism. So when I was a journalist, a broadcast journalist, I got a press release via a fax machine, and usually it made the news if a press release came in, or if the police reported a breaking story or a tragedy, or if there were court cases. However, now stories are breaking by citizens on social media. And so what journalists are doing is they're looking at trending conversations, and then they're creating that as the news story. So the world has been completely disrupted, and citizens are at the center of all these conversations and all of these disruptive times that we're living through. And service media is the vehicle, I guess, to allow that to happen. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that our state and our public service need to be answerable, and they haven't been too answerable in days where they control the communications. But they need to be equipped with the skills to be able to have a two-way conversation. And I understand their nervousness, right? I do. They're conservative. They're considered. They don't operate like we would operate, speaking openly, and I understand why. However, we need leaders who are relevant in the digital age, and that's where the question is, are you relevant? Can you be relevant? If not, are you the right person for the job?
Yeah. And I love that. Are you the right person for the job? I think that's important because, they decide to go for that office, and then they need to be able to speak up. And we've seen some wonderful examples as well. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, you know.
She's been amazing. I mean, how many crises has she been through during her short tenure? And she arrived into office with her baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's such a role model. And actually, Sigrun, I was on a podcast with a colleague and an old friend of mine 3 weeks ago, and she asked me the question about what women I looked up to, and I mentioned you. But the phrase that I used, and I think it reminds me of Jacinta too, is we need women who are willing to like take off their shoes and walk bare feet and beat a path for other women to come behind them. We need to see it being done to believe it. We need that evidence. And I think that that's what she's providing, because, you know, I was getting very depressed about the standard of our world leaders. And I felt that, you know, is that the benchmark, you know, that for the rest of the world, that populist politics was going to become the norm. And I believe in democracies and I believe in free speech. But I do think that we need a little bit of equilibrium back in our world, because we're at a dangerous juncture. Yeah,
we are. And my hope, you know, is that through Black Lives Matter, actually we'll have change of leadership, which it's got nothing to do with color in that sense, but still at the same time, it's a shift that we need. We need to see. I think a crisis brings out the worst and the best in people. And when you've seen the worst of a leader, my hope is that people don't elect the person again. We don't need to mention any names.
No. And
coming back to you, Joanne, you quickly created this course. You had, like, you know, your calendar was clear and you took swift action and created a course that was very needed, you know, crisis communication during COVID times. But, you know, it must still have been hard to have all these offline things fall off the plate. And have you been able to recoup some of that income? You know, can these workshops now be held? Like, what's going on for you right now?
So it was very stressful, and, you know, I was full of fear, and I was reminded of the recession in Ireland and in Europe 10 years ago, in fact, globally. And I went, I don't have the energy for another one, because I set up my business originally in the first recession. But once I'd kind of made my broadcast on YouTube and the other social networks that my business was going online, I felt relief. And then the work just came. Like, my client said, we need you to design a course about, you know, working from home, about how we can be confident online. And so there was very much a lot of bespoke training and consulting happening. I also created coaching programs for social media managers who could have me as their backroom team member to help them navigate this crisis as well. So people were taking that up. And actually, my pipeline now is to next spring of 2021 from my own programs, but also with client programs as well. And now my business is 100% online. And as you know, Sigrun, that was my ambition, right? 3 years ago when I worked with you.
Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous to see. Now, you know, I knew you are the person to do a turnaround like this because of your attitude. And I think it all starts with the right attitude. But what about your clients? Do you think they want to stay online, or will they come flocking back and say, Joanne, fly to Brussels or London or whatever, and let's do a workshop?
Well, I've had my European clients come through many short trainings of about 2 hours since lockdown, and they're really enjoying it. They find the value, it's focused, they see that they still get me showing up, and it isn't any different. The groups are definitely smaller. I would have had maybe about 60 people in the Parliament in Brussels, but now we're doing it in groups of about 8 or 10. But the feedback is really good, because we're asking people for feedback. We're asking about the optimum time that they want to do a Zoom call, because I know we're getting Zoom and video call fatigue. But I truly believe that it will remain. But actually, I've made a decision that it will remain.
You've made the decision. And you know, you have created such a stand with that ideal client of yours that if you say, I am doing everything online now, they'll accept that.
Yeah. Obviously, I still want to speak on stages and, do exciting stuff, but in the main, I can deliver exceptional training, consulting at a high quality and very personalized just from my home office here.
And what does that mean for you and your family?
I promised Bobby 3 years ago when I began working with you that I would be at home more. He's now 10, almost 11. And every week since then, he would ask me this question on the car run to school. So how's your online business going?
Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
And I would say it's getting better. So I was never away on Friday. So it felt like I was working 4 days a week, but I'd be away early in the morning. I sometimes would be back and he would be in bed. And now I find myself as a single mother again. And that has changed in the past 2 years. So I really need to be home. I need to be home. And again, that weird COVID gift. We've been together as a family. Sophie is here. She's a tax accountant for the Big Four. She's working from home. I'm here. Both of us are helping to homeschool Bobby. And it's been wonderful, but we've been trying not to catch COVID and adhering strictly to the public health guidelines and staying at home.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Joanne. That's really makes me happy and should make everyone happy watching this, that, for many people, COVID has been a blessing. I know it's horrible. People have died and got very sick. My niece, who's 14, she was sick for 5 weeks. And it's taken her weeks to, she's an avid golf player, it's taken her weeks to get back her strength. Like it's a horrible disease that people get. But I also think at the same time, it's been a blessing for many who, this forced digitalization that's been happening, and people suddenly realize, oh, I actually can do this online. So I'm very happy for you, Joanne. Any other things you would like to share before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to say to the business owners who are watching, there are an amazing suite of opportunities right now, but you need to step up and you need to speak to your audience and find your place and find how you can give value. And my greatest learning from working with you, Sigrun, and you taught me this concept, was niche down and scale up. And I shortcutted a whole decade in business in 3 years by having that focus. And how reluctant I was at the beginning, but the clarity that I have now, the ease with which I do my work and I deliver my business to my clients, it's joyful. It's absolutely joyful. And everybody can have that. But I think mindset is important, having the right coach, having some mentoring, and believing in yourself and making sure that, you step out too. Step out.
Step out. Thank you so much, Joanne. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching.